Penn State was down some important players to start the season here, but now it seems like good news is on the way.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked on to Penn State football. Thank you to the everydayers out there. Thank you for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day, your daily source for all things Penn State sports. My name is Zach Seyko, and I am your host of the show, credentialed media member for both Penn State football and Penn State wrestling. Well, there are select national analysts out there that are trying to make the argument that Penn State should drop not one, not two spots in the AP poll or the next release of these rankings, 5 spots because they played Nevada. It's getting ridiculous at this point. A special teams starter, a special teams captain from a season ago was benched. We're going to discuss the implications of that, but good news on the injury front for Penn State. We're going to discuss that to open up the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is right around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. Friendly reminder to let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. So we're going to talk about Zuriah Fisher, Devonte Ross, Quinton Martin. Tracy was questionable. He was on the availability report, and some other key role players. Just go through where Penn State stands with its injuries right now. But good news all across the board, it seems like, as James Franklin shared in his most recent press conference leading up to FIU. Everybody's going to want to talk about and know what is going on with Zuriah Fisher. It seems like all things are trending in the right direction for the moment. But I do not blame Penn State. I agree with them taking the precautionary approach because that's what it seems like at this point in time. Fisher did not play against Nevada strictly to protect him or just for precautionary reasons. That this isn't a long-term, hey, maybe there are some lingering effects from his injuries. I mean, Fisher came in with a lot of optimism this season. James Franklin does that, where he says, you're not talking about this one player. You're not talking about player A. You're not talking about player B enough. He did that for Khalil Dinkins on the offensive side of the football. But back in June, it was Zuriah Fisher that was supposed to step up to have that breakout season. So when it came to within the Penn State program, there were high expectations for Fisher going into this season. And that's good. But if this player is not available, especially on the heels of losing Abdul Carter, the best edge defender in all of college football last season, it's just denied Dennis Sutton until the freshmen and the second-year players start to turn the corner. Okay, that is a little concerning. Honestly, that's very concerning because you double-team deny Dennis Sutton, and then are those younger players going to be ready to step up when they're in isolation responsibilities? I digress from that, but Fisher, it sounds like he is available based on what Franklin said because he was trending to play against Nevada, and then they collectively decided that you haven't really practiced enough recently because it seemed like Fisher was in good spirits. This is what Franklin described, that he was ready to go. He was excited to play in the game against Nevada. First time back in serious action, and he didn't end up playing. I agree completely. I do not blame Penn State for taking this approach. If he is not 110%, do not play him against Nevada. That already happened. Do not play him against FIU. Do not play him against Villanova even. That might be crazy to think, well, he's got to shake off some rust. So be it. But I think about the longevity. I think about what you have available at this season going forward. I think about the non-conference schedule. Okay, if James Franklin and company have that high expectation for Fisher, that much confidence in him, then what does he need to prove against these teams in this non-conference schedule that's not that strong? We know that. We're not afraid to admit it here on this show. So Fisher can shake off all of the rust in practice and in scrimmages. He will get the necessary reps going up against the guys that are actually starting and playing in the Big Ten and have futures in the NFL, not against FCS Villanova or Group of 6 FIU. So keep him out of the lineup until he is ready to go, fully ready to go, because it also opens up opportunities, more opportunities for Chaz Coleman, Jalen Harvey, Malachi Williams, Yvonne Kamaju. All of those guys need the reps against this competition. So that's the strategy. I agree if you're going to keep Fisher out of the lineup momentarily. You do not need to force him back in until they get to that Oregon game. That's where I want all the attention focused there. So that's just one player. How about Devonte Ross? Devonte Ross, we know, has been dealing with an injury over the course of the offseason, but he's been practicing. He's been at training camp. Doesn't seem like there are any limitations on him, but he wasn't really utilized in the offense on Saturday against Nevada, was he? Even though he did actually play. Same kind of approach. If he is healthy and can play in this non-conference schedule, go for it. If he is not, then keep him out of the lineup. But the difference between Zuriah Fisher and Devonte Ross is that Fisher has been around at Penn State for quite some time. He has played defensive snaps with this Nittany Lions team, whereas Devonte Ross has only been with the program, 6 months? Okay, I guess a little longer than that because he transferred in over the course of the winter and participated in all of spring training camp. So 9 months. He's been at Penn State for 9 months. He needs to build that rapport with Drew Aller and get acclimated truly to the offense. So for Ross, it's a little more important in this case, but we know what he can do. If I don't need anything. I don't need a prove it moment from Devonte Ross. I saw enough in the spring football game and hearing from the coaches about how he's going to be a part of this offense and knowing the expectation because of what skill set he has during his time at Troy. What he's already proved it. To go along with Trevor Pena, to go along with Kyron Hudson, Penn State's offense is going to be at its best is if all three of these receivers are at full strength. That's where this offense truly takes off because of their unique skill sets between the three of them. So it is important to keep Ross healthy and get him back to 110%. Quinton Martin. I'll go to Quinton Martin and stay on the offensive side of the football before we go back to defense with Zion Tracy. Quinton Martin, RB3 competition, has not been settled because it shouldn't be. Cam Wallace is as capable as Quinton Martin is, and honestly, Corey Smith. I do think that Quinton Martin gives you the most versatility because of his pass catching abilities. He can block, but so can Cam Wallace. And we saw that on Saturday against Nevada. And I was curious to see how would Wallace do, coming back from his long-term injury where he dealt with a serious leg injury, to say the least. However, in the scheme of things, Penn State is loaded at running back. So where Quinton Martin's not available, Cam Wallace steps up. But it sounds like Quinton Martin tweaks something according to James Franklin. And again, another precautionary situation where you don't want to play him if he's not 110%. Again, Penn State's intention is to run Nicholas Singleton and Katron Allen. So if you're going to be utilizing both your superstar running backs at a given time, that means Quinton Martin needs to be ready to go in. Cam Wallace needs to be ready to go in. Corey Smith as well. Those next spots on the depth chart, RB3 is important for a reason because Singleton and Allen are going to be maximized in their final season here. But Martin gives you that versatility. There's not much that separates Cam Wallace when he's fully healthy. Same thing with Quinton Martin, and I don't think Corey Smith's too far behind. That is the luxury that Penn State has here with its depth chart at running back. Zion Tracy. So Quinton Martin is going to be, he's trending in the right direction as well. And for what it is worth, at the practice leading up to Nevada, he was participating. He was the one running with the ones and twos. Cam Wallace, Corey Smith, they were running on scout team. So if that's any indication, Quinton Martin, who's the least healthy, if you will, of the three of them, of the trio, was with the ones and twos. So if that's any indication for anybody, I think that's at least a sign we should take of note. Zion Tracy now ended up as questionable. We know that he was dealing with an injury this offseason as well. To what extent or to anything else or to what it is specifically, can't confirm it. But we know that Tracy has been working his way back. He's done so well in camp that he is the starting slot cornerback. Kenny Wosley played admirably and is playing well and has impressed Jim Knowles and a lot of other people during training camp, which is why he's getting that time at slot cornerback in the present absence of Tracy. But if he's questionable, if he's suiting up, if he's going through game day warm-up, same thing, trending in the right direction. He can give you help on special teams. He's going to be the starter moving forward. Same situation. You don't need to prove anything in this non-conference schedule. Let him get situated and back out there on the defense, but rotate him in with Kenny Wosley, who I think has done an impressive job to this point. I also just want to mention Javen Williams on the offensive line. We know that Williams had dealt with an injury and had recently got cleared from James Franklin. He's somebody that would rotate in as a backup tackle, maybe even at guard as well. He's got that versatility, but don't count out Javen Williams. I know Penn State, James Franklin named 7 offensive linemen they're going to use heavily so far. I think Williams, when he's 110%, he would be the 8th. And Penn State could just have, again, it just adds reassurance. It just adds insurance there that this offensive line is one of the strongest groups in the entire country. Again, conservatively, the offensive line is a top 3 group. Now remember, out long-term at wide receiver, Caden Saunders, Josiah Brown, and Max Granville on the defensive side of the football. Those are the players so far that have been confirmed out for the season, and we shouldn't expect them back anytime soon. Special teams deserve some attention here because in Saturday's game against Nevada, the starting punter was named and was not who we expected. We're going to talk about what happened here as Penn State benched a captain from a season ago for another veteran on the team. That is coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and you'll see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business are available through Supply House. They got real-time inventory, honest lead times that will keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Do you need parts fast for a project? Well, Supply House has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. The Part Finder tool and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every single detail is going to matter. And their Trademaster perks, like priority shipping, dedicated support, make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free, and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com with promo code SHCollege5. Supply House. Real people, real service. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rougiet. Guys, you probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it is time to meet Rougiet Ready. Rougiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiet might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head over to Rougiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That is RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiet website for full safety information. And before we get back to the podcast, we have an important request. Locked On wants to hear from all of you. We put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcasts even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcasts.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered in for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. That's right, $100 Amazon gift cards over at lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link down in the show notes. Thanks so much for helping us out. I want to talk about special teams. Yes, special teams do matter. Remember, Penn State didn't punt, so do they even matter all that much? But we wouldn't have known there was a change in starter if you just watched the game alone. The lineup announcement went up on the board, and I imagine most people were anticipating, because there really wasn't any confirmation going through training camp leading up to this moment. This is a significant change here for Penn State and what it means overall. A captain, a starter from the past couple of seasons. Riley Thompson has been benched. Now, maybe we don't know necessarily the full story, but we're led to believe here that Gabe Nwosu just simply outperformed him, and that no job is safe, that you're a captain, you're a former captain at that point in time, and you get overtaken by Gabe Nwosu. And that's no disrespect. Gabe Nwosu is a heck of an athlete. For those who don't know who Nwosu is, Nwosu's been within the program for quite some time now. He's a redshirt senior. He's listed at 6'6", 297 pounds. Punter. We've seen Nwosu as the kickoff specialist. So most people should be familiar with Nwosu. But if you're new to the show or you're new to following Penn State this season, Nwosu is built like a defensive tackle, but kicks footballs for this team. This is significant because, like I said, it goes back to the point that no position, no start, your snaps, your starting spot is not guaranteed. Thompson transferred in, was really good in that 23 season. Some people are making the argument that he was bad in 2024, and it was a step down. I'm not afraid to admit that, to say that Riley Thompson regressed a little bit from 23 to 2024. I want to add some context, though. Remember, players need momentum. Punting is a part of that. Kicking is a part of that. In 2023, in Mike Yurcich's offense, there were more opportunities to punt and get into rhythm versus Andy Kotelnicki's, who they were sustaining drives, they were scoring more points, they were going for it on fourth down. So Thompson didn't have as many opportunities to punt, but that's not an excuse. You should still have your A game if you're going to be a captain and be one of the faces of special teams. But I did find it intriguing that going into the season, Penn State had only 5 captains. That's unusual. They usually have 2 offensive, 2 defensive, 2 special teams. Why is Riley Thompson off of this list? Well, a backup's not going to be a captain. Nwosu overtook him. So why would Nwosu overtake Riley Thompson like this? Well, for one, he did have a down year in 2024. So Thompson did take a step back. That opens up the door for a competition. And for what it is worth, I do want to point out the fact that special teams coach Justin Lustig did allude to the fact that there was a punting competition. But other than that, it was a pretty vague statement that, hey, Nwosu's pushing Thompson. Okay, but that's the idea that across the team, that's the standard. Your spot's never really safe. You always got to earn your reps. You always got to earn your snaps. But now we actually see it in reality, a tangible result here where Nwosu stayed the course. He pushed. This Nwosu as a player, as a punter, was always a raw prospect, raw potential. Guy has a cannon for a leg. If that analogy even makes sense, he can punt the ball. He can boot the football. But I think accuracy, being able to pin somebody inside the 20 and the 10 was a weak spot for him. So now he's not just all leg. Now he's not just all muscle. He has precision. We didn't see it on Saturday because Penn State's offense was so efficient. They were just able to move the football. They gave Ryan Barker opportunities. So if Penn State doesn't punt this season, okay, then it's really not an issue. It's not up for debate here. But if Nwosu is the better player, I don't blame Penn State for making the switch to go away from Thompson, despite being a captain, despite being a 2-year starter. Nwosu, if he put in the work, he deserves the reps he deserves the opportunity to be the starter. And it goes back to Antoine Belgrave Shorter being the strong safety, but it's different when there's not a defined player. There's not a defined role there where, oh, this guy is returning. This guy's a captain. There was an open spot and Belgrave Shorter surpassed the likes of a Dejon Lane and a King Mack in that instance. No one was really expecting, outside of Penn State, nobody was seeing the work that Nwosu was putting in to move past Riley Thompson. So that goes hand in hand here. Again, my point being why this is significant is because a player who had been a 2-year starter lost his spot because he was outperformed. Your spot is never safe. This sport demands the best of the best. If you're going to play in the Big Ten, if you're going to play at Penn State, if you're going to compete for national championships, you always have to be on your game. And that is what this exemplifies here. Special teams, Justin Lustig is really, special teams has been inconsistent at times. Jahan Dotson gave them those electrifying punt returns once upon a time, and it really seems like they haven't done much from there. But since Justin Lustig has taken over, I know it's only week 1, but you're just seeing more results in the kickoff return. Okay, Nicholas Singleton had that kickoff return touchdown against Rutgers in his freshman season. Outside of that, Penn State has been really quiet in special teams. I guess no news is good news on that front. But Mack makes a heck of a return right out of the gate to open up the season. That gives you optimism that it's not just going to be a return to the 25-yard line or a fair catch, that there is a threat back there to return it for a long touchdown. Punt returner, Penn State stacked at punt returner. You can go with Trevor Pena. You could go with Devonte Ross when he's fully healthy. You could go with Zion Tracy when he's fully healthy too. Penn State has 3 reliable options at punt returner at the moment. Kick returner, Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen. But it's also the blocks that are set up in this process. And King Mack, of course, emerging here as a counterpart in the special teams unit. Kyron Hudson's the one that led the way on that block, with that block for King Mack. So it's important, all of those parts together, that you have guys that are willing to make the blocks to spring those returns, but then the players who see the lanes, have the vision, and Nicholas Singleton and King Mack can do that given the opportunity. So Penn State special teams, hey, special teams can lose you a game. It can certainly win you one. Ryan Barker was perfect on field goals. Doesn't matter what opponent you're facing, you got to hit your field goals. Punt returner, solid depth. A kickoff return finally has a spark there. King Mack, Nicholas Singleton. And then punter, you have not only a guy that can flip the field. We know that Nwosu is going to flip the field with a punt, but can now be precise. Get opponents pinned inside the 10, maybe even in the 5. That's going to win you football games. So good on Nwosu to take over as the starting punter. He earned it. All right, Penn State. Because they played Nevada, they were the number 2 team in the country, but LSU won. Ohio State won. I think there is justification for one team in the Buckeyes to move past the Nittany Lions, but everybody else, it's getting ridiculous. We're going to talk about it coming up next here on Locked On Nittany Lions. And this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is almost here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. That's right. FanDuel is great because it allows you to bet however you want. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. Makes every game more exciting, so whether you're watching your favorite team or you're just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup, FanDuel gives the game more energy than beyond that. And remember, NFL kicks off this week. Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Cowboys. If there are bets that you like, player props, game lines, it's all available right now on FanDuel. So go check it out. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. And remember, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets over at FanDuel.com. And today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. College football is back. I couldn't be more excited. We all couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, There's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. You can pull up Game Time right now, and in just a couple of taps, you will see those amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. And if you've never been to Beaver Stadium, there's Penn State football tickets available right now on Game Time. Never been to Beaver Stadium. You've never been to a venue before. They have a feature where you can see your point of view ahead of time, so you're not second guessing yourself about which seats you're selecting. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that is promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Now, coaches and players will say that AP polls, coaches polls, they don't matter. Well, yeah, in the scheme of things for the football team, control what you can control, as James Franklin will say, but that is true. If you win your games, if you take care of the team that's in front of you, you won't have to worry about the rankings. But they do matter. AP poll absolutely matters. Coaches poll, yes. The college football playoff rankings are going to be the ones that matter most at the end of the day because you need to win and be in that top 12. Of course, I don't need to explain that. So when people say that Penn State, maybe that's just trolls on the internet, but there are national analysts that are trying to say that Penn State should not be number 2, should not be number 3, shouldn't even be in the top 5. It's getting ridiculous at this point because Penn State played a team that they scheduled 7 years ago. They had this game in the works since 2018 with Nevada. So now they get penalized for it. I could understand the argument if Penn State had gone to overtime like Kansas State did against an FCS team. I know that's Kansas State. We shouldn't be worried about them. We should be worried about Penn State. But the Nittany Lions demolished Nevada. Before the starters were taken out of the game, it was 39-3, and Nevada didn't score its first touchdown until under a minute left when the reserve role players were in. Ohio State defeated number 1 Texas. That gives them credence to be the number 1 team in the country. I think that's acceptable. You could even make the case to me that LSU defeating number 4 Clemson on the road like that was a decisive victory. They were leading. They were in control of the ball game. If you wanted to put them at number 2, I still think it should be Penn State, but I can understand the argument because that is a much more credible win at this point. We're going into week 2. There's only been max 2 games played. I don't know how you can shuffle the rankings, and I don't know why Penn State is penalized for taking care of business in week 1. They should not drop down to number 7 outside of the top 5, outside of the top 3. They are at a minimum number 3. They're the number 2 team in the country. They played like it against an opponent that is out of their control. That's the opponent that is on their schedule. But if they struggled with them, if they didn't win in a convincing fashion, okay, then I'll be a little more, I will listen to your argument. I will hear it all the way through. But the Nittany Lions should stay at number 2. I'm honestly, I would not shock me if the AP voters, if there were enough first place votes that went to Ohio State and LSU, that it would shuffle the rankings that significantly. But LSU was number 9. They don't just automatically get to jump into the number 2 spot. Oregon, 1, they should move up. Georgia, 1, they should move up. How do we know that LSU is better than them? How do we know that they're better than any of Penn State or Oregon or Georgia? Ohio State beating the number 1 team in the country, a little bit of a different story. And when you're number 3, the math works out. You're the number 3 team. You had first place votes. You just beat the first place team. Yeah, I am not going to argue with you that the Buckeyes should be number 1. But the AP poll does matter, because when the College Football Playoff Committee, these polls do matter. These rankings do matter, because when the College Football Playoff Committee looks back at your resume over the course of the season, what teams were you facing? Where were they ranked when you faced them? Teams are going to be different throughout the season, but if you beat a ranked opponent where they are, that adds credibility to your resume. So they need to be precise with these rankings. Don't just do whatever you think is right. Actually be genuine when you rank these teams 1 through 25. Just because LSU won one game doesn't convince me otherwise that, oh, they're automatically better than Penn State, Georgia, and Oregon. And I want to include them because that's the argument that's trying to be made here. And even Miami should be jumping all of these teams too. You won a game. Well, let's apply that same energy. So what if an unranked team happens to knock off a top 10 team in the country? Does that automatically vault them into a top 10 or a top 5 spot? No, it doesn't. So why should we do that with a team? Well, they're inside of the top 10, so therefore, no. It doesn't make sense when you do it from that angle. So why would it make sense here? Also, I want some of these analysts or people, spectators of college football, that say that Penn State's playing a cupcake team and a weak non-schedule. I hope you keep that same energy for when the SEC is playing the likes of Tennessee Tech, Mercer, the Citadel in week 11. Are you going to drop those teams when Penn State's in the heart of its Big Ten schedule and playing comparable Power 2 opponents? Are you going to penalize those SEC teams for winning 63-0, 70-0 against teams that shouldn't even be on the docket that late in the season when games are that much more crucial? You see, and I know that the committee understands that, but I want to see the people that are voting for these polls, AP coaches, be consistent across the board. College Football Playoff Committee, I think, would penalize the SEC when that happens, so they don't do it again, but they continue to schedule those games. Now, I know down the road they're changing that. Still, I'm just saying, you knock Penn State for it right now to open up the season, but remember, there's a lot of SEC teams playing FCS schools at the most important part of the season, late in the season, when those games really matter. At least teams that are losing early on, Texas, Notre Dame, they can recover. You lose earlier in the season. It's better to lose earlier in the season than it is to lose late in the season. That's all I'm going to say here. But make sure you're being genuine when you vote in these polls, if you have that ability to vote. Hey, that's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking out the show. Thank you to the everydayers for making us a part of your regular routine. We do this daily. So if you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts, become an everydayer. Follow along with Locked On Nittany Lions here for Penn State football, Penn State wrestling, recruiting, men's basketball, and so much more. It is all right here on Locked On Nittany Lions.